So today's objective is to be able to solve compound inequalities. So now it's two inequalities put together. You need to be able to understand the difference between and or statements. So we'll talk about that in a second. To write the inequality from a number line. To separate and solve compound inequalities. Remembering things like to flip the symbol when you multiply or divide by a negative on each side, and graphing your solution. So quite a few things with compound inequalities, but you'll see a lot of the same steps, and hopefully you will have it for the topic 1 test that is coming up next week. All right. I record all my lessons. You can rewatch them. You can watch other examples like the ones that I have down here. So other videos that I thought were great to use as resources. And so if you're ever absent, make sure you're keeping up with the class by watching the lessons that are posted in the slides. All right, trying to go back. This thing's in the way. Okay, sorry. You have a worksheet for your practice. You picked it up today. Try to get a little bit done each night. I know sometimes we don't finish the whole lesson to be able for you to finish the whole practice, but like from today's lesson, you should be able to complete all 4 that are on the back, or maybe like a couple on the front. All right, so don't wait for it all to be like the night before your assessment, right? Get a little bit done each day so it's not overwhelming. I know some people have been having trouble with the taking pictures. Just keep trying. If you can't take a picture with your phone, it keeps coming up blurry, or you can't take a picture with your Chromebook, there are free like scanning apps that you can use with your phone that basically it's kind of like taking a picture, but it's in better quality. All right, so if you need help with those, let me know, but it's like you do have to figure it out. All right, I'm not accepting papers from you. You do have to figure it out. Same with like in college, my teachers never accepted papers. Everything was submitted online. So if I was able to figure it out, I think you guys can figure it out, especially having grown up with like tablets and iPhones and all that. All right. Here's the schedule so far with the assessments. The exit ticket for this lesson that we're going over today, it's supposed to be like the 2nd day of the lesson, but we'll just have to see because I do like giving you guys time to practice. We'll see how it goes tomorrow, or we might push it to Friday. Either way though, there's a binder check on Friday. So make sure that we are hanging on to everything that I give you, that you are keeping it in order from like whatever day we did it on. And that way it'll make it easier for the binder check. That is going in the assessment category. It's supposed to help your grade, not hurt you. The only way it hurts you is if you're just not taking notes or you're losing everything. All right, so make sure we're staying on top of it. I do have the first tutoring session of the semester tomorrow. Now, keep in mind, so far, a lot of people have told me that they're coming, even people from other classes. So anyone's invited, but keep in mind, it's not me sitting there next to you, holding your hand, walking you through all these problems. All right, if there's gonna be probably a whole classroom full of students like there is right now, it's really like lecture hall style. It's, all right, what's your question? I'm doing it on the board for everyone to see. Okay, great. Next person, what's your question? Doing it on the board for everyone to see. That way, if you have the same question, we're covering it all at once. And if you don't have any questions, that's fine. But that's how it's probably going to go. So far, I have a lot of people telling me that. So come prepared with something to work on, like maybe an assignment that you're struggling with. Don't just show up and say, I don't know how to do anything, because that's not going to get you very far. Questions? All right, and there are a lot of good resources in Schoology, like all those videos that I post. So make sure if you do come to tutoring that you come with something to work on or something to ask. All right. So some of you copied this down, some of you haven't yet. If you haven't, make sure you're copying it down. But basically, there's some vocabulary that you need to know. I wish it was like in a certain order, so I'm probably going to jump around. Because right now they have it just in alphabetical order, the vocab words. But the first one is and. All right, so and or statements are like the main part of compound inequalities, because that's like those real world examples when I say we need to have less than 2 students or more than 7 students, right? Or if I said we need to have between 2 and 7 students. So it's those situations like that. If it's an and statement, then the solutions have to be true for both inequalities. So the solution includes any numbers that makes both inequalities true. All right, so here's a good example. We have x greater than 3 and x less than 5. So even though, we have 7 or something like that, that is greater than 3, it's not in our solution set because it's not also less than 5. All right, our solution set is where they overlap, right? So could 2 be an answer? All right, no, 2 is not an answer because yeah, it's less than 5, but it's not greater than 3. So both have to be true. What about 4? Can 4 be an answer? What about 4.5? What about 3.1? What about 3? All right, 3 is not an answer because we have that open circle, right? It says it has to be greater than 3, not equal to. So 3.1 works, but not 3. Questions there? All right here, you're gonna have to be comfortable seeing it written with the and in the middle, but also when it's smushed together like this. All right, because the and statements, sometimes they write them smushed together. Sometimes your answer choices are smushed together. But just kind of pay attention to like the opening of the mouth, right? It wants to point at the bigger number always. So when x is greater than 3, the x is the bigger number, right? Yes, no? So then down here, 3 less than x, is the x still the bigger number? Yes, so that's why we have it in that flipped direction, but it's still saying the same thing. All right, and then over here, these are the same, right? X is still the smaller number compared to 5. Does that make sense? All right, so get used to seeing the answers in both formats. Sometimes it has and, sometimes it's just smushed together. I've never seen it smushed together for the or statements though. I'm not saying it'll never happen, but I've never seen it like that. So I'm just gonna pretend like it never happens for the or statements. All right, questions on the ands? All right, I'm gonna scroll down to the ors, which you probably haven't written down because I wasn't able to scroll down this far. But the or is the last box. So I'm gonna talk about that next, so it makes sense. All right, so we talked about and statements. Then when we have or statements, that's like saying you can invite 3 people. Well, let me phrase that differently. You can invite less than 3 people or more than 8 people. Right? So now you have options. Now just one of them has to be true or it to work. So the definition, if you're filling that in, the solution includes any number that makes either inequality true. So the solution includes any number that makes either inequality true. So similar example to the one we had up top. We have x greater than 5 or less than or equal to 3. And it's graphed for you. These graphs for the ands and the ors, like for the ands, they will always look the same. All right, the ands will always look kind of like a dumbbell or something like that, where they overlap in the middle. The ors will always point in opposite directions. So I say that they look like paddles, like from a boat. Those are also called oars, right? So that's how you can memorize it. These look like paddles. These are my or statements. So I have x greater than 5 already graphed. Notice the open circle. And then x less than or equal to 3. Notice the closed circle. So can my answer be 4? Right? No. Can it be 0? Can it be, say, like 10? Yes. Can it be 5? Can it be 3? All right, so just understanding that it just has to make one of these true, not both. Questions there? All right, let's go back to the other vocab. So next we have just what are compound inequalities. That one's already written for you. It's 2 or more inequalities that are joined by the word and or the word or. So either they're both true at the same time or just one of them is true. And then I made 2 examples here that I think you should write down if you haven't already. So again, the ands always look really similar. Probably the only difference is if it's closed circle versus open. They overlap in the middle. The ors point in different directions. All right, now closed circle on the number line. What does that mean? It means equal to, so it means that the number is included in the solution set. All right, we kind of talked about that yesterday. Here's just another example. All right, the number is included in the solution set. Inequalities, you already know what those are. So those are basically just math expressions, kind of like equations, but now we're using one of these 4 symbols. So greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. All right, we have open circle on a number line. So that number is not included in the solution set. All right, so if I said we need between 7 and 13 students, does that mean I can have 7 students? Because I said between, right? If I said 12 students, can I have 12 students? Yes, all right. So 7 and 13 are included because they don't have that open, they don't have that closed circle. They don't have that equal to part underneath. All right. And that covers all of them. Any questions, or was there one that you missed that you need to scroll back to, or we're good? All right. Going once. Twice. All right, let's do a few examples. So on the back of your note sheet, we're going to practice basically writing the inequality for the given number line. So this question I don't really like. I feel like they could have just said write the inequality for the number line. But it says, how can you use inequalities to describe the sets of numbers graphed below? All right, so sometimes the questions are a little weirdly phrased. It's just asking you to write it. All right, so here's a good strategy. Look at how it appears. Does this look like an and statement or an or statement? All right, definitely an or statement. They look like ors, like paddles, right? So it's an or statement. I start there by writing or in the middle. Then we need to pick a variable. It doesn't matter what it is. What variable do you want to use? All right, x. So then I'll write an x over here. I'll leave some space, and I'll put whatever number that the circle is on. And I'll keep it like in the same order as it is on the number line. So x, leave some space for the symbol, -3, or put another x, leave some space for the symbol, and then the circle is on the 2, so I write 2. All right, I just kind of set it up that way, so that way I can really focus on what these signs should be. Any questions there? Sorry. All right, so on the left side, that circle to figure out the sign is a good indicator of what your options are. So is that a closed circle or an open circle? All right, it's a closed circle. So what are my options for the closed circles? Greater than or equal to and less than or equal to. Which one makes more sense for the way that the arrow is pointing? All right, less than or equal to. We're saying that what's highlighted is smaller than the -3. Sense? Now for the other side, that's an open circle. So what are my options for the open circle? Greater than or less than? Which one makes sense? Is the arrow pointing at numbers bigger or smaller than the 2? So that means x has to be bigger, right? So the opening should face the x, so it's greater than. Questions there? All right, so I think just putting like the structure there is a good start. Then all you have to do is go through the trouble of picking the signs, which you can really think about. All right, and that's our answer. Questions there? All right, let's look at example B. Is example B an and or an or statement? Oh, I didn't really hear anyone. All right, it's definitely an and. So there's an overlap. So it's an and statement. Both have to be true. So I have a variable here. We'll pick a different one. We can pick y this time. And I have a variable on the other side. What numbers get paired with each one? -4 and 1. So it's the numbers that the circles are on top of. All right, now leave some space so you can put that inequality symbol. And that's what we'll do next. So on the -4, what are my options for the symbol since it's closed? Good, and which one makes sense? All right, greater than or equal to, because what's colored or highlighted with the arrow is bigger than the -4. All right, what about for the 1? What are our options for based on the circle? Greater than or less than? Which one makes more sense? All right, definitely less than. So the numbers with the line over them are smaller than 1. So y has to be smaller than 1. All right, good there. Now I do want you to get in the habit, because this is a good question that could be on a test or an exit ticket or something like that. you might have that answer, but the options might all be like smushed together. So you have to be able to write it in that format. So if your answer options are all like smushed together, here's how you can convert this, because sometimes with the and statements, they don't say and. You'll take whatever variable you use and put that in the middle. Put the numbers on each side, the ones with the circle on them. And then since you've already done this, just make sure that you're keeping the opening, the mouth, whatever you want to call it, towards the bigger number. So since the y is bigger compared to the -4, it needs to stay bigger. And then for the other one, since the y is smaller than 1, it needs to stay smaller than 1. So do you see, like, yeah, the sign flipped, but it's saying the same thing? Okay. And then for the other one, it didn't flip, but it's still saying the same thing. Questions there? All right, you have a U-try on page 20 of your workbook. So U-try on page 20, example 1. All right, so practice writing these. So then on the left side, you should have had, well, first the x or whatever variable you use, some space, -2. On the other side, x, leave some space, and 6, correct? All right, now what symbol did you use for the x compared to the -2? Greater than. Did you put greater than or equal to? Should just be greater than because of that open circle. All right. So just greater than. That makes sense? All right, greater than or equal to would have the line underneath, or it would be a closed circle on this one. All right. On the other side, so for the 6, that's a closed circle. What symbol did you put for right here? Less than or equal to is correct for that one. All right, so they can have different signs, like they don't have to be, both equal to. You can have one closed circle and one open. That's perfectly fine. Any questions? All right, I also want you guys to get in the habit of writing it smushed together. So if you did, great. If not, let's practice. So what symbol would go in between the -2 and the x here? All right, so if I'm writing it in the like smushed together format, you need to make sure that the openings still face the same numbers. So over here, the x is bigger. So down here, still make the x bigger. So it should be less than, not greater than. For that one, if you write it like that. All right, what about the symbol over here? Yes?
+3.
Okay, good. That is correct. That one didn't really change order there, but it still faces the bigger number, which is a 6. All right, any questions? All right, now let's look at a couple of the solving examples. So back to the note sheet. So example 2, we're going to practice solving the ORs, all right, the OR inequalities. Those ones are pretty easy because they're already separated out for you. If you preview to like example 3, the ands, where they're like all smushed together, you would just have to separate it out yourself, all right, but the ORs, it's already done for you. So you would just write it like this. 5x plus 7 less than 13. That's one of your inequalities. The other one is -4x plus 3 greater than 11. All right, you're solving them separately, and then you're putting your answer on the same number line. All right, and if it helps you, you can put the or in the middle here too. But on the left side, solve that one. What do we move first? And how do I move it? So subtract it on each side. On the left side, the 7's canceled, and we just have 5x. Did I need to flip the sign for that? All right, no, not for subtraction, so just keep going. What's 13 minus 7? Good. Keep going. What's opposite of multiplying by 5? I'm going to do that on each side. Do I need to flip the sign for doing that? No. All right, no, because it's not a negative number. So some people think just dividing, you have to flip it. It's only when you divide by a negative. So keep the sign the same. And then what is 6 divided by 5? 1.2. Right, so we solved that one. Now solve the other one. All right. Opposite of adding 3 would be good. So do that on each side. On the left side, we have negative 4x. Greater than, what's 11 minus 3? Good. And then opposite of multiplying by negative 4? Do that on each side. Do I need to flip it in that situation? Yes, because this time we did divide by a negative. So now instead of greater than, it's going to be less than negative 2. All right? And if you want to write your answer like this, you can. So it's x less than 1.2 or x less than negative 2. All right, if you were doing this on a test and you have these answer options, but this or was replaced with and, then don't pick that one. All right, if it's an or statement, your answer should have or in it. All right, but we still need to graph it, so we're going to take a second and do that. And try and squeeze it in here. And squeeze it out of paper where there's space. And you're going to want to have both the numbers on your number line as well as some numbers that are surrounding those numbers. All right, so I'm going to have it for this one. We're going to start maybe at negative 4. Then we have negative 3, negative 2. So I'm labeling like every other one. Negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. All right, so I have tick marks for each one. I just labeled every other one. Now we need to have circles on these numbers. So put a circle where the 1.2 would be. It should be about here. Is this going to be an open or closed circle? All right, open. And then figure out what direction it'll point. Miss Medina. Jasmine, are you here? Yes. Okay. Okay, no problem. Bye. In a second, I'll send you somewhere. All right. So open circle, what direction does it go? To the left is correct because we're saying that x is smaller. So I wouldn't put the arrow like the whole way, just kind of for right now until we figure out what direction it's going. But any questions there? Now, do I have an open circle or a closed circle on the negative 2? All right, it's going to be an open circle. And what direction does that one go in? To the left or to the right? to the left. So this one looks a little bit different because we did have that sign flip. So on this line, we're basically saying that the solution looks like that. All right, starting at 1.2. All right, so in this one, is the -2 included? If only one of these has to be true, can -2 be included? Yes, because it's smaller than 1.2, right? So only one of them has to be true. So your solution is drawn like this. That's like the only exception to like the or looking like that. All right, questions? Yes. So open means that the answer is not included in the closed means that it is. So that's like you would say at least two. Not exactly. Now you can, so that one would be like a closed circle. If I told you I need to have over 2 students, can I have 2 students? So that's what it's open. You can memorize the symbols if you want. Like these are open always. And then the ones with the lines are closed always. All right, have a good day. See you tomorrow.